So, as I mentioned earlier, there's so many different types of breath work out there. But what I'd like to do is start off with what I call the 3 pillars of functional breathing. And the first pillar is what we call the biochemistry, getting the proper biochemistry within our physiology. And so one of the first things that we want to do, goalies, is when we do our breath work, all of our breathing should be in and out of our nose. When we're sleeping, when we're performing, when we're exercising, to the best of our ability. And I know myself right now, when I have to wear a mask, I have to really consciously remind myself to make sure to breathe in and out of my nose. We create a substance called nitric oxide when we breathe in and out of our nose. And this will really help us to get really good oxygenated blood to the brain and to the muscles. So first pillar, it's almost like as if imagining you're taping your mouth. And we want to make sure that we're just breathing lightly, slowly, calmly, so light and so smooth and so gentle that the fine hairs in our nose would be hardly moving at all. So I'm just going to show you, and I'm going to imagine my mouth is taped, and I'm just going to do it with my eyes closed just to see if I can get that, again, that feel. And when I talk about feeling the sensations of the breath, I'm not talking about thinking. I'm talking about the actual sensation. So really feeling that airflow coming in the nose and moving out of the nose. And so much that you could actually feel the coolness of the air coming in and feeling the warmth of the air going out. So I'm just going to take a minute, and I'm just going to show you just light, smooth, gentle. Now, one of the other things that we can work on is we can place one hand on our chest and one hand on our tummy just above our belly button. And when we do this breathing, what we want to feel is when we breathe in, our tummy's going to just gently rise and our tummy's going to gently fall on the exhale. I'm just going to show you. Now, when I just did that exercise, obviously I have a gentleman helping me here today film it. Cody, could you hear my breath while I was doing that? No. So there's a misconception that to get a deep breath that we need to take this, and that's absolutely false. The faster and more exaggerated our breath, the less oxygen gets into our body. So when we do the first pillar, biochemistry, we want to make sure that the breath is light, it's smooth, it's gentle, it's quiet. That's the first pillar of proper breathing. Now, the second pillar of proper breathing is what we call biomechanical. And what we want to do to the best of our ability is minimize chest movement. We want to have some chest movement, and a lot of people have been taught that by pushing in and out your tummy that you're doing diaphragmatic breathing, and that's not necessarily the case. I've had the privilege of working with Patrick McEwen from the Oxygen Advantage, and over the last several months, one of the key things, and I'm going to demonstrate it, and what I would encourage all goalies to do, and I'm going to tell you one of the reasons why I love this, is you want to put your hands on your 2 lower ribs onto the side. And I'm just going to demonstrate what proper functional biomechanical breathing is. So when I breathe in, I'm going to breathe into my hands, feel that sensation, and I'm going to have that lateral expansion. And when I breathe out, I'm going to have the contraction. My hands are going to move in towards my ribs. So I'm just going to show you. When I do this proper breathing, again, I'm breathing in and out of my nose, softly, gently, smoothly, feeling the coolness of the air coming in, feeling the warmth going out. and then just this gentle lateral contraction and expansion of the two lower ribs. Now, as I'm doing that breath work, the first two pillars, biomechanical, biochemistry, I'm really slowing the air going in and out of my nose. Think of your breath like a wave in the ocean. So it comes in, there's a little pause, and on the exhale, there's another just gentle pause at the bottom of the exhale. And so as I'm doing that, I'm just feeling my breath slowing down more and more and more. Now, one of the reasons why I love putting my hands, and I really get goalies, I love to initially have them place their hands here. One, first of all, to make sure that they're breathing biomechanically. And I'd say, it sounds strange, but the vast majority of the goalies that I work with, when I first start working with them, they do tend to do upper breathing. They do it fast, they do it rapid. So we want to, when you do this slow, gentle, lateral breathing, you're going to start to have this sensation of what we call air hunger, that you want to take a deep breath. And that's actually a good thing, because what you're doing is you're teaching your body to be more resilient, more resilient. I like that word, to carbon dioxide. And we're going to learn how to get more oxygen into our system. So when we're doing this breath work, again, I initially start to do eyes closed because I can feel my breath, not think about my breath. You're going to hear a lot of people say, you should do breath counting. And I'm not a big fan of that, because that means we're still in our head. When I'm feeling the coolness of the air coming in and the warmth going out, and I'm feeling that lateral contraction and expansion, that grounds me in the moment. I learn how to just be in the moment. And generally speaking, when we do this type of breath work, our mind is going to wander. It might wander to a sound, it might wander to a thought about what I'm going to do later on today. It might wander to another sensation on the body. And when our mind wanders, which it will, we kindly, that's the key thing, we kindly and gently bring it back to where we most easily feel the breath in the body. And in that way, we learn how not to get caught up with our thoughts. And we also learn how to just be in the moment. So again, just a quick little demo. And the great thing about the breath is you can do it anywhere, anytime, any place. So again, gentle in through the nose, out through the nose. Feel you're breathing into your hands and breathing, and the ribs are coming in. Now, a lot of my goalies will use this to help them to get a good, deep, restorative sleep. I've had a lot of my goalies come back and say, John, when I've had to stop a penalty shot and I was feeling a little bit nervous and anxious, it was a great tool to help me just to get back into the moment and calm my central nervous system down. Now, the final pillar that we're going to talk about today is what we call cadence. And cadence, really simple, is the rhythm, the pace of our breath. And just as a general guideline, the faster we breathe, the more adrenaline, the more we get pumped up, the more we get activated. And when we slow our breathing, it has the opposite effect. It allows us to bring ourselves physically and emotionally down. And I think it's critical that, in our program, in our breathwork program that we do through the goalie mental training program, I teach goalies all this different breath work. Now, cadence, I always usually start off with slow, and there's what we call resonant frequency. Resonant frequency is when you breathe in, your heart rate speeds up, and when you breathe out, your heart rate slows down. And when you get your breathing and your heart rate synced up, it's called respiratory sinus arrhythmia. You're literally learning how to balance the nervous system, and we're optimizing really good blood flow and heart rate variability. Now, generally speaking, when we have people breathing at around 6 breaths per minute, if you're 12 and older, if we have people breathing at 6 breaths per minute, it will literally put you into this balanced into the zone. When we get into the high levels, then we can get in our program, we can test your resonant frequency. Some people ideally are 4.5 breaths per minute. If you're taller, bigger, some people are 5.5 breaths per minute. And what we can do is find out what your ideal breathing rate is. And through practice, it eventually just becomes internalized. But generally speaking, if you breathe in for a count of 4, breathe out for a count of 6. Now, I just mentioned not counting, but eventually if we start off doing this, it'll just become second nature. So the key thing is with these 3 pillars, there's a tendency to rush too fast, to try to go from one pillar to the next pillar to the next pillar so quickly. Now, I've been practicing this for a long time, and my goalies, my elite goalies, they practice each of those pillars. So again, I'm just going to go at my pace. It's more of a slower pace. And again, this is a skill. It takes practice. So again, I'm just going to show you. Now, my last article with In Goal magazine, we showed you mindfulness, and we can do breath work mindfully. I think the key thing, the difference is with breath work, we're consciously manipulating the cadence rhythm. Now, one of the things, again, I like to do this when we initially start breath work and working with these 3 pillars, to do it eyes closed, because it allows us introspectively to really notice where we feel the breath in our body. Now, as we get better and better, yes, we want to simulate what we're going to do in a game. So now that's where we would move forward in the chair, and also working on head trajectory. Ideally, we would put the puck 3 feet in front of us. We'd get the proper head trajectory. And again, initially, we would put our hands on our ribs, and we would work on those 3 pillars. Now, we have audio tracks, guided audio tracks, where it sets the cadence, and all you have to do is listen to these audio tracks. But again, we eventually want to get it to the point where we don't want to be dependent on an app or a guided audio, because if we're out in the middle of Saskatchewan, we don't have access to internet, we want to be able to do it on our own prior to a game and during the game. So again, when I'm practicing this, initially putting the hands on the 2 lower ribs, okay, I'm good head trajectory, I'm on it, I'm tracking down onto the puck. And I want to emphasize again, feel the breath. Where do you notice those felt sensations? The coolness of the air coming in, the warmth, the feeling, those ribs expanding and contracting. Some days you're going to notice that maybe the air is moving in one nostril more than the other. And those are great, because now what you're doing is you can't, and as I mentioned before, you can't feel the breath in the past. You can't feel the breath in the future. The only time and place that you can feel the breath is in the present moment. And as the breath, learning how to play one shot, one play, one period, one game at a time. And this breath work, really working on these 3 pillars. Sometimes it might take a week just to get the first pillar, just really feeling the air moving in and out of our nose. Second week, then we start to, add, making sure that we're breathing in and out diaphragmatically. And this is going to make our core a lot stronger. As a goalie, that's a key thing. Functional breathing equals functional movement. And then eventually adding the cadence. But again, I would start just feel the breath on your own pace. And then through our program at Zone Performance, we will start to teach you how to get that proper cadence so that you can use it before your game, during the game, and after the game.